most likely you are never ever going to live through the securitization of another asset ever again, because it doesn't happen that often.
We got British Hodl in right now. He's hodling through this recent 45-minute quote-unquote dump. British Hodl, a lot of volatility. I know you're feeling pretty good. I tease the audience. You have a catchphrase. Say it at the end. If you wouldn't mind giving it to those at one point here. But Hodl, how are you feeling? Are your relatives calling, saying, dang it, you were right. I should have listened to you on Boxing Day or whatever you're celebrating over there. British Hodl, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's nice to be with my favorite poo coiners on the launch of the Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin has obviously won the game when it comes to the institutional adoption. Now we've moved on to, how this product is now going to get brought into everyone's lives. I'm hearing today, in fact, I just put this tweet out, that large broker dealers are literally refusing to sell their clients Bitcoin ETF products. And I've asked for confirmations and asked for anyone who's following me to call their managers out and say, hey, I want to buy this product. What can I do? And I'm hearing that Vanguard is refusing to sell the Bitcoin ETF product to their clients. Merrill Lynch is refusing to sell it to their clients. It's not normal. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time, obviously, but how much time have they had to prepare for a Bitcoin product? So what you're seeing right now in the market is clear. In terms of my perspective, this is clear. BlackRock, Fidelity, everyone else is getting their best clients in, and then retail is going to get access in about a week.
Okay, I was going to ask, what are you attributing this? Is this just a lack of supply, incompetence, or is there a little bit of malice involved? It seems like favoring their higher quality, quote unquote, customers. I would say that seems a little unethical in my view.
Seems a little normal to me, don't you think so, with these offers? Right? Like, it seems a bit normal to me at this point. So what did we expect, right? At the end of the day, Bitcoin is going through a securitization process. And there's going to be some games and swings and roundabouts, and that's what's going on right now. If I was you and they're listening to this, call your investment advisor, manager, whatever, and demand to buy one share of a Bitcoin ETF and cause a fuss if they don't let you. That's what I would do.
Turn into a Karen on the phone line there. I got one more question. I'm gonna pass it to Josh here. We have Robinhood saying they're going to try to allow ETF trading as soon as possible. Do you think there would be a large retail rush on Bitcoin ETFs, or is that too sophisticated a financial instrument?
No, I think it's absolutely fine. I think retail is finally, the unit bias has basically disappeared as of this morning, right? Because if you were worried about buying Bitcoin and you had to put up $48,000 in one, you can now go and buy 200 shares of FBTT or whatever it is, or GBTC or whatever, and your unit bias around Bitcoin has just been erased. So I think that's all fine. The main problem here is like these retirement accounts, these normal people that are working hard, actually trying to earn a living, are now being refused access to these products. I think that's criminal, right? It might be legal, but I think it's criminal, and I think everyone should take a stand against that. And the way to take a stand is to call your investment advisor and give them a British Hodl style rant about you getting access to one share. Just go buy one share. That's all you want to do. I want as many people to call their advisors up and say, how dare you tell me that I can't buy one share of a Bitcoin ETF? And let's see how they react to the pressure.
I like that. Now, I'm interested in getting your thoughts on that then too, because, from my perspective, if we're approaching from retailers, I think retailers should be purchasing Bitcoin separately from the asset managers. And of course, putting that in a hardware, in a hardware wallet, cold storage, et cetera. So as we have moved towards this era of ETFs, I think it's as expected. I think you mentioned that just a little bit earlier, where most of these institutions did not anticipate the ETF approval. So of course, they're going to be giving it to their early on clients. Of course, they're getting the calls from their little rich donor friends and their rich investors saying, hey, I want as much of this as possible, but get me in before everybody else. What's your perspective on new retailers and people that are just now entering the market that are like, hey, this is now actually real. Bitcoin is real. It's got that confirmation. It's now on the traditional stock markets. It's kind of that moment of clarity for them. Should they be going through this ETF, or should they be going through like a Coinbase and moving that off exchanges?
Yeah, listen, look, the premier solution to Bitcoin is self-custody, right? Because that's what the asset is built for. It's the first time in human existence that you can actually take full control and ownership of your assets, right? So that's the premier tier one solution, right? The secondary tier one solution is the ETF. And then everything underneath that, like MSTR, mining stocks, et cetera, to me are all tier two solutions, which is why I put out a couple videos, 7, 8, 9, 10 days ago saying that I think there's going to be a rotation of capital from MSTR, the miners, and everyone else into these ETFs because people were using those instruments as de facto ETFs. And that's just not what they are. So, yeah, primary option is self-custody. If that's either too complicated or that's, you don't want to basically do it for whatever reason, then the next best option is now the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And then anything underneath that, MSTR, mining, leveraged products, et cetera, it's all tier two solution.
And you just mentioned the inflows coming from other stocks. What are your thoughts on just overall inflows for these ETFs coming into the following weeks as this was just announced?
Yeah, so Eric from Bloomberg basically tweeted out in the first 20 minutes of trading open that there was about $500 million of inflows. Well, in that time period, the market cap expanded by $48 billion. So what that basically means is that, as I've been saying again for months, the bull market multiplier on this product is a lot higher than what every person thinks. So for $1 going in the first 20 minutes of this of trading today, the market cap was moving up by $96. Right? This is insanity. We've never seen this before. And by the way, only a few $100 million of the total amount that was supposed to be coming in the first day has actually even come in yet. It's only been an hour and a half since trading opened. Right? Yeah. So we're going to let all this clear out. There's probably going to be a lot of traders that have bought Bitcoin that wanted to sell into the open of the ETF, et cetera, et cetera. All of this has got to clear out first, and then we start seeing where the real demand takes us.
All right. Well, speaking of real demand, what kind of demand are you anticipating from Asia once the Asian markets open today?
Listen, look, at the end of the day, the American capital markets are the biggest and the best capital markets in the entire world. Despite the fact that your primary regulator doesn't have two-factor authentication on their Twitter account, it is still the premier capital markets of the world. So as far as Asia goes, I think they may start, I think if we were going to see anything spectacular from Asia, it would have happened last night in anticipation of these ETFs. That didn't happen. So we'll see. I mean, I think at the end of the day, any institutional Asian players are now trying to use the institutional Bitcoin ETFs in the US to get into the market. So I think a lot of the Bitcoin price action is going to center around US market hours from now, moving forward from today.
Yeah, and these are quite unprecedented movements in the market. I mean, of course, we're moving at prices that nobody expected before the Bitcoin halving. And this has shifted a lot of people's perspectives and predictions. We've already seen them this year starting to, just completely pivot where they think Bitcoin's going to head, either pre-halving or post-halving. So what are you expecting in terms of price action for Bitcoin before the pre-halving event take place, as well as the end of 2024?
Yeah, if the right amount of capital decides to come in and the bull market multiplier stays exactly where it is, I think we're breaching $100,000 before the halving. Then, I think the halving is just going to be rocket boost to everything that's going on. The one thing that I do sort of have hesitation on is that, typically speaking, markets are going to pull back around February, March, right? I'm talking about stock markets. So it'd be interesting to see if that takes place again this year and what happens to the overall liquidity. But remember, we got a halving coming up. We got the Fed basically turning around and saying they're done tightening and they're about to start loosening. There's just so much lining up here, and now we've got ETFs in the Bitcoin space. So there's a lot happening here for Bitcoin. That's positive.
Now, when you say 100K before the halving, the halving is probably going to be around middle of April. I get really bullish, but it reminds me of 2021. In 2021, we had a double top. We reached low 60s, and then in November the high 60s. Will you see something similar? Will we get a 100K pre-halving, then maybe get our 30-40% drawdown? Where does that put your price target for the end of this year?
So I can't say the end of this year, but what I can tell you is that this cycle, my price target was somewhere around $280,000 without an ETF. and around $450,000 with an ETF. The ETF is a single game changer that we've been waiting for. Gold, if you look at the gold chart, it had 8 years of up immediately preceding 2004's approval of GLD. Like, this is a game-changing moment. And all of the people that are reading charts, all of the people that are trying to make decisions based on lines, you're going to have a tough year because you don't know when capital is just going to get opened up and flood into the market because of the ETF. So I have empathy for you guys. I'll be thinking about you as I see the price just suddenly shoot up out of your patterns that you're reading. Like, I don't know what else to say. I don't read charts, so I can't help you with that.
Yeah, and you brought a good point up. A lot of people compare this to the Bitcoin ETF that was passed in November of 2004. When the gold ETF passed, there was about a 13% pullback over that next 6 months, which is roughly $300-400 billion in terms of the price action and market for gold at that time. Do you think this is a different scenario and that this time will be different, even as we anticipate? I think Bank of America just came out today with a report saying they expect the Feds to pivot in March, which, of course, if that were to happen, see some drawback in the traditional stocks. Do you not see that taking place due to the Bitcoin halving just right around the corner?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I put one of my predictions is I think we're going to see a rate cut by April, the first rate cut from the Fed by April. So, yeah, if that happens, I think we'll it could eradicate some of these historic patterns and things that have happened as far as February and March goes in terms of its drawdown. We could have already had it. We had a 5% drawdown in the NASDAQ in the last month or so, and that could have been it. It could have just been brought forward in anticipation for this pivot. But the main thing here is we have now unlocked trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars to get access to an asset that it didn't have access to before, which, by the way, has been spanking their results sheets, spanking their performance sheets. Mm-hmm. Because it's just outperforming everything, right? So if you're sitting there going, hey, what's been the best performing asset this year? You're now going to be able to get your advisor or whichever monkey you have trying to tell you that you need to get into Bitcoin to basically present to you that Bitcoin is the best performing asset. We've never had this before. This is from 9:30 a.m. today, the world changed. Because the ETF product allows that. Now, I would implore everyone to go to BlackRock's website and go look at their one-pager on why Bitcoin is a great investment. Can we have imagined that a year ago? Like just last January, could you have imagined BlackRock.com having a website telling people why Bitcoin's a good investment? I couldn't have imagined it.
Are there any fears that they'll pivot the attention to Ethereum after they, let's say they suck in a lot of volume, they suck in a lot of the money on the markets? Are they worried, all right, we got to find a new shiny toy to show our investors? Is there any worries about that?
You just got to go look at the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, right? And you can have a look at what's going on.
It broke a trend line dating back from 2015, like very recently.
This is the thing, right? At the end of the day, is Ethereum going to be around by then? By the time they approve an Ethereum ETF, is it even going to be around? Is your leader going to be wearing his unicorn pajamas? Or is he going to be dancing like a wizard somewhere? Who knows what your founder is going to do of your Ethereum foundation? Who knows how long he's going to lock up your money for? Who knows how he's going to change the rules of your money? What type of money is that? What type of money? And in fact, if you are worried about privacy, the ETF, considering Ethereum is now proof of stake, should actually be the biggest concern for you. Because if now Wall Street can get a large stake of Ethereum, this is the biggest issue. They can't control Bitcoin by having an ETF. They absolutely can control Ethereum by having an ETF. So the question is Ethereum going to be done by the time the ETF gets approved? Because Gary Gensler basically said that in his announcement press release yesterday. He said Bitcoin's the only one that fits this. But if it gets approved, is Ethereum going to be around by then? Are the rules of the money that you're relying on going to change by then? When are you going to get? How long is the lockup period going to be? And is your founder and great ruler going to be rolling around in a unicorn outfit, dancing on stages somewhere? Who knows? But hey, I guess that's the future, right?
That's the future. And hey, he does have some good moves and rap skills as well. Let's not forget his lyrical ability on the stage there. Now we're looking at...
If that's lyrical ability, I need to introduce you to Jay-Z. We can get some more taste.
45
taste
all
right, so Jay-Z is better than Nas.
Dude, Nas is he sold his soul to the devil, man.
All right, looking. I did want to look at some of the. We have some pretty good. All right, 2 coins, 1 wallet brings up a good point here. Are you worried 100K before April is too fast, too soon? And are you worried about a strong drawback if we do reach that level?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think that, again, I'm not looking at charts here, right? I'm looking at simply capital flows in and out. So if today the multiplier was $1 in equals $96 up, it means that too fast really doesn't matter because not a large amount of capital is coming in to move the price up that high. I think you'd be looking at somewhere in a region of 200 or 300 billion dollars over the next. Well, you got to remember, 200 or 300 billion dollars coming in over the next 5 years, right? Based on a daily purchasing to maintain an equilibrium price, you're looking at above $100,000. So, I think my estimates have actually been conservative. I think that's just because I talk loud. I think that's why people think I'm so bullish. But my estimates have actually just been extremely conservative. It's like whatever you think is going to happen over 2 years, I'm going to assume it happens over 5 years and look for the daily equilibrium price.
I like that. I think we'll wrap it up. Cat Condo has a very good question here, and I think it's just good for the newer participants into cryptocurrency, someone who may be interested in buying Bitcoin but hasn't pulled the trigger yet. I don't understand, what is it about the ETFs that are so important?
The ETFs unlock capital. That's all it is. There is trillions of dollars of capital that has never had access to an ETF. Michael Saylor calls it the 15-second phone conversation, right? The 15-second phone conversation is very, very simple. It is, hey, I heard about this Bitcoin thing. I heard you guys have a fund. Get me a 1% allocation. Thanks. Bye. Done. I don't need to worry about wallets. I don't need to worry about privacy. I don't need to worry about where to buy it. I don't need to worry about anything. All I do is make a phone call. In 15 seconds, I've got exposure to Bitcoin. That is the beautiful thing about the ETFs, and that's why today is a monumental day. And I would urge everyone to call your advisors, open your broker accounts, and just buy 1 share. Just take part in history and buy 1 share, because most likely you are never, ever going to live through the securitization of another asset ever again, because it doesn't happen that often.
100%. And I love the attitude and just the pumping in the markets. But, of course, I do want you to let the channel know where can they find you? What type of information do they get from your guys' channel? And just kind of give a brief just expose, so to speak, of, what you can provide and, just your channel overall.
Listen, the only type of information you can get from my channel,
I was looking at the chart.
The only type of information that you're going to get from my channel is absolutely bullish content on Bitcoin. If you're afraid or allergic to bullish content, or you're a $10 a month DCAer, or you're a $1,000 net worther, don't listen to my content. Don't even come and watch anything I do. But if you do want to come and find me, check me out. All you got to do is go to youtube.com, type in British HODL, and you'll be able to find me.
All right, and British HODL, what's your sign-off phrase one more time for the people who don't know you?
Listen, especially today, especially after this institutional capital has been unlocked, there are still only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the f*** up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.
I love that. I love that. British HODL, we're going to put a link to your channel down below. Make sure you check out his content. British HODL, it is always a pleasure talking to you.
Love you guys. See you later. Bye-bye.
Love you, man.